Peace and love, Hanuna.
Hmm.
So once again, we're going over in-depth analysis dealing with Pocahontas, um, her noble title, Matatoka, biblical reference dealing with the principle of that story, Rebecca. Uh, so we're going to go in depth into ancient Al-Moroccan, or in English, American culture, ancient American culture, ancient Moorish culture. All right, so Pocahontas compared to Rebecca of the Bible. And so the royal princess Pocahontas, daughter of the Algonquin Sankum, married Captain John Smith and went with him to England, where she died. Therefore, Captain John Smith gained rights to the land. Pocahontas therefore became a woman called Rebecca. She was now the wife and patriarchal property of Captain John Smith, a Christian mercenary, and in accord with doctrines of the First Council of Nicaea, established by the Creed of Nicaea or the Nicene Creed, which is loosely called Christianity today. By this marriage, and all land and gold and silver and all property and all goods of the royal princess of Old Dominion became the property of her alien husband. She willingly relinquished her birthrights to John Smith. Shamefully, she may not have known the consequences. After all, she was very young. The main character of this story, Pocahontas, seems not to be the point of its focus. The story involves us more around what she did and who and how it affected others. Pocahontas symbolizes a change in the course of world history, initiated from North America. Pocahontas was young, naive, and beautiful Almoroccan princess of the Algonquin tribe. She chose to be called Rebecca after she married Captain John Smith, the English proctor. With this, she opened the door for the permanent colonization and ultimate conquering of North America by the Europeans. This brought final success and closure to the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors for the Christian mercenaries. This by romance and intrigue through perseverance of the proctor, Captain John Smith. Though only 12 years of age and a virgin, Pocahontas fulfilled her grand dreams of marriage to Captain John Smith, while in her tender years, she was to come face with war, death, and peril for her people. Her plenary and vast estate was to be lost to John Smith and the colonial settlers for the gratification of her lower self. Pocahontas lost her vast estate, as history will record. The weakened Algonquin Confederacy of the divided Almoroccan tribes in North Almoroc was unable to contain the onslaught of the Peregrinos, which commercially called pilgrims. Peace and love, Yazir Bey.
Peace and love, Morris. So,
All right. So, let's see here. So Pocahontas, though born to nobility, wealth, and power, was a humble and generous princess. She was kind, wise, and compassionate, yet politically naive. Among the Algonquin, she was elevated and highly respected, for she was the heiress to a rich and bountiful commonwealth in the great and magnanimous empire of the Moors. Rebecca saw many of her people maimed and slaughtered in long and arduous wars with the Englishmen. Yet she remained forgiving and merciful to the invaders of the Old Dominion. She, like many of her people, fed and clothed the Englishmen. They were ill equipped in civil knowledge, knowing little at all of medicine and herbs, and lacking skills in agriculture. The settlers were often sick, and many had starved to death. Others were unorganized and on the verge of starving and ready to abandon the settlement. While their survival was credited to the help from the indigenous people, the settlers were often savagely violent and lecherous. In spite of this, Pocahontas chose to gratify her longing desire to save his life and to marry John Smith. She gave up her title of nobility, her honor, and her birthrights. She preferred a stranger before her own blood, forsaking her nation, her people, and her father. She wanted to go to England and adopt an English pedigree name. It was by the word of Pocahontas alone that the great Sachem, her father, spared the Englishman's life or the proctor's life. And so the woman called Rebecca of the world and European fame is also an important figure in Moorish Al-Moroccan history. She symbolizes much of the great division that existed and still exists among the Aboriginal and indigenous Moabite Moors, or today people that identify the Black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, and Indian. Still division. Many Moors are still divided and confused, thinking that Al-Moroccan is India. They're in the dark, divided, and trying to be someone else. India is located in Asia, and we know it's levels to that because that's not India over there either. That's Hindustan. That's a British tag, a colonial tag. I wonder who taught the Moors to the contrary. To the conscious indigenous Moors of North Almarak, America, Rebecca will always be Pocahontas, our moral and civil dilemma. Did you know that Pocahontas, the woman the Englishmen call Rebecca, was often compared to a woman named Rebecca in the Holy Bible? All right. And we'll get into that, you know. But most people might already be familiar with that Rebecca story. Um, but we'll get into
Are
it.
you saying she's the one and the same, or she just referred to the story Rebecca in the Bible?
Um, it represents the same principle of giving up the birthrights.
Mm,
It's, yeah, it's a story in there, which we're about to get into right now. But
okay.
most people are familiar with it. Some are not. But yeah, symbolic represent, gave up our birthright.
Mm, okay. One more quick question. Her was her name actually Pocahontas, or was that just for the story? Wasn't it a different name? I
Yeah,
thought.
that was just the story. Her name was Matatoka.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she was
So
the
they, so I'm sorry. So they flipped the story to make it seem like Pocahontas was of a Slavic nature when she really was a Moor.
exactly. Remember, they
Bad,
called her Indian, right? You know what I mean? So,
bad. I get you. I'm linking the two together. This is nice. I like this one, man. Continue.
uh, all right. So now the Holy Bible, we're dealing with Genesis chapter 25. So Rebecca was the wife of Isaac, son of Abraham.
Rebecca was. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, any questions? Just flood me. I'll stop. I ain't.
No. It wasn't a question. I was thinking out loud and talking out loud. But I'm
Okay,
listening. That's
cool.
what. So I can write it down too.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Um, so Rebecca was the wife of Isaac, son of Abraham. Rebecca gave birth to two sons. One was named Esau, and the other son was named Jacob or Yakub. Jacob stole Esau's birthright In the social interchange between these two alien sons, there arise a moral civil dilemma. Very important points are made about birthrights. It appears that the struggle or the problems began in the womb or in the stomach of Rebecca. Observe these points of issue and analyze them individually. After reading the Bible, make an objective conclusion and discuss the not so hidden message. So here are the bullet points. So Rebecca was the daughter-in-law to Abraham. Rebecca was the wife to Isaac, which was the son of Abraham. Rebecca bore two sons for Isaac. Rebecca's sons are named Esau and the other Jacob or Jacob. Esau and Jacob were twins. Esau and Jacob were two nations. Esau and Jacob were alien in nature to each other. Esau and Jacob were two different manner of people. Jacob used coercion, duress, and trickery to force Esau to sell his birthright to him. Esau, therefore, despised his own birthright. All right, so these are the bullet points to marinate on as we continue along here.
Question to that. He despised his own birthright, being that he sold it to his brother. And is that the reason why he despised his own birthright? Just because it was, because he sold it to his brother and like they had they beef or whatever?
Yeah, he pretty much gave up his power. So that action basically is basically saying like, yeah, he gave up the birthright for a little bit of nothing. It was. We're gonna get into why he did it, but essentially, it was for something trivial. You know, uh, and that story is principle based. This story, but it still ties into Matatoka or Pocahontas, how she gave up her birthrights. It's the same, you know what I mean? So we're drawing a parallel
Right,
in the
right.
scene. Yeah, yeah.
I get you. Okay, I'm still all ears. I'm listening. Just
Okay, so let's see. So now let's deal with the Bible. We're still in Genesis chapter 25, verse 18 through 34. And they dwelt from Havilah into Shur, that is before Egypt, as that goes toward Assyria. And he died in the presence of all his brethren. And these are the generations of Isaac. Abraham's son begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian, Padan, of Padanaram, the sister to Laban in Syria. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived, so she couldn't have babies. Now she can, right? And the children struggled together within her. So it's twins in her stomach and they struggling. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire to the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 old when she bare them. Now, when you look up 80, that's about 60 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And Isaac loved Esau because he did not eat of his venison. So when you look up venison in the Bible, that's like the youth was training to learn how to hunt for sport, but he didn't eat the deer. He didn't eat the meat. He didn't eat meat. But Rebecca loved Jacob, and Jacob side pottage. And once I and side pottage is just lentils. Just look up side pottage. I know some foreign words up in here. It ain't foreign, but that's not everybody's dialect. People not talking like this. So I just look up side pottage. It is lentil soup, right? And Jacob's side pottage and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. So Jacob was making food, lentils. Esau came from the field from work, and he was faint and he was hungry. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage or red lentils, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. So when you look up Edom, that's one of another name for Esau. And later came a tribe called the Edomites. This is just background knowledge for y'all further cross referencing. And Jacob said, "Sell me this day your birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die. And what profit shall this birthright do to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. So he sold his birthright for basically some soup, right? Or a pot of porridge, or however you want to look at it. But for something trivial. All right. So where we at? Rebecca and Esau. So you see so far, before we even continue, you see the analogy going on. So Rebecca, Esau, and Jacob, moral conclusion. There are two issues of law relating to birthright in the story of the two sons of Rebecca as told in the Holy Bible or the Bibliothek. The first issue is of divine law. This relates to man's personality to be in harmony with his spiritual nature, from which he derives his moral principles, and to live according to the common principles of morality. The other issue is national law. This relates to man's responsibility to acknowledge his nativity, honor your mothers and fathers, from which is drawn civil government of self, and he must live according to the principles of civilization. And so, while divine law and civil law are not the same, there is definitely an important association and relationship implied between the two. The implication is this: that which is spiritual definitely has the capacity to manifest into the physical plane of life. Man, the spirit, being the image and likeness of his creator, has a physical body. This magnificent and wonderfully made body is the vessel or house for the spirit man. The spirit man is given this body to use and occupy while on the planet, on the physical plane of life. The physical is the plane on which the spiritual things are made manifest. Thus, man makes his own laws for civilization and bases them on his divine origin. All right, divine origin. Hence, man, whether in the spirit or flesh, has the responsibility to be moral and civil. This is mandated by the nature of man's makeup. However, free will, the ability to create and to destroy, right? We have options, and discernment. But we have the option to choose the correct path or the moral path or the noble path are not. All right. So, however, free will makes the man the master of choices and therefore the master of his own destiny. Man is not the victim of happenstance, which is often the condition he claims to exist in. Within the heart and mind of every man is the seed of the Creator, from which he was made manifest, and from whence he comes. Man, therefore, is responsible for all his actions. And so it is often said, physician of the spirit, of the mind, and of the flesh, heal thyself. So we have the tools to do just that. We have the tools to heal ourselves. Everything that happens to us is a direct correlation to our actions. It's nobody else's fault but ours. Whatever condition we in, we lay the foundation.
So would it be even that way, like that way of thinking you're saying is is an ancient way of our forefathers and foremothers? Is that's honoring them by thinking that way? Or
Yeah,
okay,
I like that too. I like that. I would agree with that.
that mindset.
Mm.
Um, I mean, yeah, because like you're saying, you have the choice to go this way or that way. So either you have excuses, and which is the opposite of righteous, I would say, or take accountability, and it's in some way it's always not to say your fault, but you always have a decision or a choice to make in those in life.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. And certain religions or cultures they call it the path. Like in Buddhism,
yeah,
it's the path. It's what road is you choosing, and it's always karma based on that. It's
hmm
cause and effect is always in play, no matter what.
right. There's a for every action there's a reaction, or all these
Mhm.
different phrases or different sayings.
Yep. Hmm. And peace and love to Ashley Shemeyer.
Islam, where is Zaki? I'm trying to change my name. You know, I be in meetings with these Caucasians and stuff. They be
Okay,
like,
okay. Peace and
okay,
love. Peace and love, Zach.
Zaki, Adele, what does that mean? And then we go on a whole tangent, and then it's history lessons. It's a whole situation. Islam, wars, peace and love.
Love. It's love. Let's see here. So once again, we're dealing with Pocahontas, commercial name, noble title, Montatoka. Her father was a sheik, and she was royalty. We're getting into the parallels of what she did by selling her birthright, and we're connecting that to the story of Rebecca in the Bible. Just to do a little summary. So the national problems, as told in the Esau and Jacob story, are concerning the birthright, access to Mother Earth's resources. Is not he clay, which makes the body of man from the womb of the earth? Does not every man have a mother? Therefore, the natal rights of every man are from birth. Natal. So when you're dealing with national or nationality, the root is natal. Um, so national civil issues pertain to the birthrights, and this is the sovereignty. These rights are unalienable, which mean can't be taken away, and emanate from the Creator, not from mere civil government contracts or fictional life indebtedness to other men. One's birthright to the earth or the land is relative to, but not limited to, these resource and self governing subject matters. They are rights to self, land, food, clothing, shelter, and the right to possess, own, and use the same. This birthright status is nature derived and must morally and civilly exist without mutual hindrance, false debt, false restrictions and ordinances, or coerced tribute to another constitutes fraud. All civilization contracts, which are constitutions, so that's another thing. A constitution is civilization contracts. The civilization agreed on how we're going to run the community, the nation, community, aka nation state, or rather nation state, aka community. Uh, in this election, this organization, people were heads of stuff. People were over departments, and it's an agreement, which is the contract. You got something, Hassan?
Yes, I have a question, Sheik. So, is it safe to say that the Pocahontas and John Smith union basically brought on the widespread of European colonization in the Americas?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, a big one. Hmm.
Because I
Um,
kept hearing you say that she gave her birthright away, and being that she was part of royalty, that means her what's hers is her husband's. You know what I'm saying? So when they got married, him and his clan came back to her tribe area and was like, "Yo, this ours now. This is my wife, so back off." And that's how they did it.
the children, because now you actually have access because everything was based on bloodline, right? All the stories we hear about the little baby is the prince, and eventually he gonna be the sultan or the king or whatever. Everything anciently in the old world passed down to the heirs. So that was the whole play to them to come over here, interface with our women, intermix with them, and now they got claimed for birthright theft. You know what I mean? So yes, sir. Um,
I wanted to piggyback off that with a question: Is so? Is the Pocahontas story like like more in depth of like the Iroquois Confederation? Is that what's going on inside the Iroquois Confederation, or is this kind of a little bit after that, or being as
no,
it was
it's parallel. Yep. Yeah, because
okay?
yeah, because Iroquois, Algonquin, uh, they're both the Confederation, a conglomerate or a union of about five nation states that clicked up, um, and then they elected a head to oversee that conglomerate.
Uh,
That right. So yeah, so the daughter of one of the heads of the Confederacy, which Montatoka, pretty much, and like remember, she was 12. She was like really young and naive. So she was like just head over heels and in love and all this, and she didn't really know, what she was doing.
mm,
But
mm,
it was a domino effect, regardless, based on her actions. You know what I mean? So that's why we got to keep our heirs competent. We need competent heirs to keep the show going.
right.
And that's trust law. Even right now, family trust, community trust. It's trustees elected and it's beneficiaries that benefit. Um,
Mm,
and once the older members start dying off, it's up to the younger members to keep it going.
keep it going.
You got to keep it going. They got to stay competent and have their head on the swivel about what's
That's
going
a
on.
perfect parallel to that because that's just saying like if someone else we got to trust and someone else, my daughter gets with someone outside of our tribe, and then they that's when they have somewhat control. I think it's a little different as far as back then. Like you said, it comes from the children, but now it's like brother Hassan is saying, like now the husband has some rights in there now, but dang,
Hey,
yeah,
hey,
okay.
hey, Mom, so her parents ain't give John Smith and them no blowback, saying like, "Nah, we ain't with that because y'all not us," or whatever the case may be. They didn't really have no rebuttal of the union between them two, and being that she was so young.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Well, you got two questions. I'm gonna answer both of them. So one of your questions is yeah, the father, which was the sheik of the Confederation, was finna kill John Smith, the Englishman, and the daughter begged, like, please don't kill him. So, he was spared because for the daughter. But, but the father really should have just killed him, you know. But
Right.
that's. Um, but yeah, actually, we're gonna you probably read that in the next couple of pages. Actually, let's see where I leave off. Oh, my time's my jail. Salam. Let's see here.
Not more.
Okay. But one's birthright to the land is relative, but not limited to these resources, the self-governing subject matters. There are rights to self, land, food, clothing, shelter. Wait, no. I read that already, right?
I'm not sure.
No. Okay, no. Okay, one's birthright to the earth, land is relative to, but not limited to these resources and self-governing subject matters. There are rights to self, land, food, clothing, shelter, and the right to possess, own, and use the same. The birthright status is nature derived and must morally and civilly exist without non-mutual hindrance. I know I did read that. No, where I left off is I'm saying. So yeah, that's where we left off. Constitutions are community contracts, or the contract of the clan or the confederacy about how we're gonna move. That's where I left off. And then
Hmm.
okay, and which are written for organized society. So that's another. These are synonyms: organized society, rural society, nation state, clan, etc., are the same thing. And constitutions are necessary so everybody can be on the same page. And they must be sealed with mutual submission of birthright power of all parties. So the nation state, the signifier was a seal to be affixed to that to represent that nation state. Without mutuality, a civil agreement or contract law is fraud. Mutuality in agreement makes man law just, and this is justice, right? So it's pretty. That's where you get the elections and all this type of stuff. Majority rule. That's fair in nature. All agreements for interchange concerning resource control, Earth's products, or civil government, organized societies must be mutual, be of substance for substance, and be void of coercion or threat. For such agreements to be lawful, valid, just, and fair, fraud cannot exist. Any rules or laws made on the part of men to the contrary are fraudulent and unlawful acts, having root in immoral and uncivilized behavior. The truth about birthrights. In the Holy Bible story in Genesis chapter 25 is about the deception and theft of birthright of Esau. It implies the social, civil, economic, and political importance of loving, claiming, and acknowledging one's birthright. Esau hated his birthright and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob deceived Esau, coercing Esau into selling his birthright to him. Both Esau and Jacob were in violation of divine and natal law. Natal, natural, nationality, all synonyms, bloodline, which is national civil law and moral divine natural law. Therefore, the truth about nationality and its relationship to birthrights must be made clear to both Esau and Jacob.
Being that Esau hated his birthright, did he have to be coerced? It seemed like. I mean, that's probably more in depth on the Bible, but
Yeah, but right, I feel you on that, but it was both though. He was coerced and he gave it up. Both
and he
acts.
just yeah, okay, just
That's why they said both parties was wrong.
oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Uh,
Self hatred, right? Man, I got to read that.
right, self
I'm
hatred.
yeah, like that's. I guess he just hated himself if he hated his birthrights for some reason. But I would need to read that from the more science lens, you know?
But you said something that your intuition took you in that. Yeah, that's I agree with that. Self hatred. But
Yeah.
don't you see that today in our amongst our people?
Facts. Yeah. Yeah. Like that's that's what made me even say that it's still to this day going on.
Yeah. So, you know, we're looking at the problems, and once we identify the problems, we know how to correct them moving forward and building communities and what to look for. Let's see here. Oh, a couple people chimed in. Let's see. Peace and love to iPhone, brother Trey L. Peace and love.
Shalom, peace and love, brothers.
And just a little recap for people that just chimed in. We're dealing with Pocahontas' commercial name, her noble title, Matatoka. She was the daughter of a sheik that was the head of a Moorish confederacy, what they loosely call the Algonquin Confederacy. And she fell in love with the Englishman, basically sold her birthrights. The Englishman had a baby with her. So now the Englishman got access to the land through bloodline ties, which was the play from the beginning. She was naive and got manipulated by the Englishmen, and now here they come. All right, so and we're comparing that to the Bible of Rebecca, the symbolic story of Rebecca and the two twins in her stomach, Esau and Jacob, and how the selling of the birthright. We're
One
connected. We're
quick
tied.
question.
What you say, Yazir?
To because just reading on the Iroquois Confederation and how that works, um, all of the all of the rights and powers were with the women, right? Is what I'm reading. They granted power to the sheiks, but birthrights and everything went with the women. So how did they how did they still gain power if it was um all still in Pocahontas's more so bloodline, or was this? Maybe I haven't got there yet, but was it deeper than that to where how did they gain control because everything's still passed down through the woman?
Well, the child of the Englishman John Smith and Matatoka or Pocahontas. Now the child is mixed, but the father is patriarchal and has an allegiance to another creed and political structure, right? So
So
he
they just
gonna
forced
push
their structure on them. Yeah.
exactly,
Okay. Okay.
and
Yeah. I'm thinking they was playing the game and then kind of got in there, but pretty much they still did that. But I was just wondering in depth how that happened.
yeah, 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 Islam.
Okay, Islam. Thank you.
The act of despising one's birthright is the equivalent of not claiming to be one's proper self or acknowledging one's own existence. Like Esau, if you deny and despise your own birthrights, can you argue that others wrongfully do not acknowledge your rights? Right? Same thing like today. We acting like black, Negro, color, Latino, Indian, and the whole majority of the world or people that know what's going on, they're not respecting us. BLM, Black Lives Matter, Negro behavior, no culture. Our people aren't respecting themselves, but they demanded respect. We got the most pride, always got something to say, but in an ignorant state. I'm talking about as a whole, of course, not everybody, not people that's in a more space, they're trending. But for the most part, our people was in that space, ignorant but cocky ignorant. And people that got sense, they looking at this like, man, how we gonna respect y'all? Yeah, come shop with us. That's it. Get out of here.
Mhm.
Go dribble the ball. Go play some NBA, You come watch y'all great comedians, y'all love play sports good. But outside of that, you're not respecting nothing y'all talking about. That's what happens. All right, so Esau's birthright was stolen by Jacob. This constitutes fraud and is distinctly and clearly a violation. This unrightful act on the part of Jacob definitely violates all moral law and the laws of men, which are made to govern civilized behavior. If a man does not love his own birthright, then he cannot love himself. If a man does not love himself, then nature will cease to energize his preservation. Self-rejection of one's birthright is equivalent to self-hate. A man who is without his birthrights has no civil liberties, true political power, of self-government and economic control, or the moral right to argue or demand that others love him. One who does not love self cannot love others. Thus, the moral code of law, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? That's where these cliche phrases play, right? So the act of stealing the birthrights of another man or people is parallel to and equates to robbing the creator of a nation. This is a most grievous violation of divine and national law. The consequence is the inevitable loss of one's birthright and forced civil death. And that's where we get civil liter mortuus, right? It's pretty much saying the same things. Civilly dead because you have no honor in general about nothing.
Uh, could I add something, Ma?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to clarify. It says was stolen by Jacob. When you go into scripture, it's two parts for Esau. One where he gave it up to Jacob for some food, and then the
Lentils.
second time, yeah, the lentils. And then the second time, it wasn't actually Jacob that stole it. It was actually his mother had came up with the idea for him to be like his brother, because I guess she, because that, Esau's her son too, so I guess she didn't see him as fitting to have that responsibility. But I just want to add that in there. I mean, I guess you could say um, Jacob did do it as well, but he was listening to his mother who came up with that process. I just want to add that in, and I yield.
Yep. Yep. All right. So the descendants of Abraham, the theft of the nationality and birthrights of the original Moors of North America is relative to the theft of the birthrights of Esau, as demonstrated in the Bible. The threats, the duress, and the coercion used by the European colonists occupying North America to steal the birthrights of the Moors are founded in dishonor, deception, and being of a disingenuous character, being expressly unlawful. The false and unsanctioned claims of sovereign power promoted by the European colony corporate states, persons, and their citizens are relative to the pure actions, nature, and deceptive character of the deceiving offspring, Jacob. All right. Where we at? Let's continue here. All right. Made manifest as the contemporary and false social codes reflected as black and white people, the two separate nations. And this was manifest as the loss of the Moorish nation's birthrights. And this was manifest as the loss of the great estate. And this was made manifest as colonization of the North Gate. And this is symbolized by the story of the royal princess Pocahontas, which we know as Matatoka, commercially called Pocahontas, heirs to the vast and magnanimous estate. And Pocahontas was the woman that the Englishmen called Rebecca, after Rebecca of the Bible in the book of Genesis. And from Rebecca's womb came two manner of people living in the same nation. The two people having two different natures or character. The two people are two different nations having two distinct national seals. These two seals are separate, though coming from and out of the same dual, one great seal. The firstborn is the great seal. Now, now, as I'm going through this, think about the back of the Federal Reserve note, or what most people call the $1 bill. So we're dealing with principle now. We're dealing with the ancient or the Roman bird or the whatever. All right. Or if you fast forward to the treaty in the 1780, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, Sultan of Morocco and the new formed nation called the United States, the Pilgrim Crew. It represents the treaty, right? Two seals on another level, right? All right. So once again, the firstborn is the Great Seal, which is the pyramid displayed with the all-seeing eye at the pinnacle, and this is the national seal of the Moors. The second-born is the eagle or the aquila, wings spread with Hex Alpha crowning its head. Hex Alpha is the emblem of the Moorish nation, and this is the Europeans. Hex Alpha is displayed as a crown on the eagle's head, and this symbolizes and represents the impersonation by the Europeans and their possession of the stolen birthrights of the Moors. And once again, check out that dollar bill or that Federal Reserve note and study that eagle on the right. You're gonna see on the top, it's an arrangement of stars, and those arrangement of stars are creating the what they call quote unquote the Star of David. We know it just as above, so below, as within, so without. Hermetic principles, but it's called the Star of David or whatnot. Um,
Islam. So you saying that's pretty deep. If so, all of that was purposely done as far as in the from the story of the Bible. Like I'm just trying to I can't make the connection verbally, but I feel like I got it in my mind. Like,
yeah, I feel you got it.
yeah, like that's crazy because we would be Esau, because today we giving up our birthright, we all of that, and they would be Yakub or Jacob, and two
Right.
seals make the one, and man, that's crazy. That's a lot of connections right there.
Cold parallel, huh?
Yeah, very, very cold parallel.
Let's see here.
So were they still Masons in that right to they were the people that actually created it and used Pocahontas and John and all that to create all of this? Like these people were still Masons, right? Or Freemasons.
You mean the
Using
Englishman?
the Englishmen were and using somewhat of the science to create all of this.
Yeah, I would say in a negative, not yeah,
Yeah, not
fraternal order.
positive.
Yeah, negative.
Still had it on
Remember,
some degree.
yeah,
Like you say, not they don't have all the degrees, but
yeah,
dang,
yeah. But these were another. Okay, these were Jesuits too. So
what's a Jesuit here?
a Jesuit is a knight of the Pope or an
Okay,
administrator that works for the Pope, and they get sent to do the bidding of basically Roman politics. So all this is connected back to the Spanish Inquisition. We're just
right.
going into a specific lens of the Spanish Inquisition, macro
Mhm.
of the Spanish Inquisition. We just get into the specifics of the activity.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess I'm tracing it back to the source to have a clear understanding. I feel like I'm trying. But yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Um, and on another note, once the Englishmen come over here and establish colonies based on that tip, They remember they send the money back to they're tithing. They send the money back to the royal Roman families or the popes and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so keep that in mind too. All this stuff is all in play. So the Moors, being the direct descendants and heirs to the ancient Moabites, are the firstborn and the original Asiatics. They are the of the same bloodline of Ruth, the Moabitess, but they have fallen to the black civil death plague of mental ignorance, servitude, and slavery. They must reclaim their rightful names, their rightful nationality, and their birthrights in order for there to be peace on earth and goodwill to men. All right, so any thoughts on that space of this whole Pocahontas space before I
Sure.
transition to the Quran and close out? And once again, 1 o'clock, we're going live, episode one, more knowledge, topic, who are the Aryans? I want to know when I go live, send me an invite so I can get y'all on. Like I say, just be Fez and Turban Dub. If you got a flag in the background, we got four at a time that could be visual. And let's just do a rotation and share the, when I actually go live, share it out. Share it out. But any other thoughts on this space before I transition to the Circle Seven?
Mm, No.
No, but I think that was dope how you tied that with giving up the birthright stuff and how that uh, similar to with us with present day. I just want to say that was pretty dope.
So now y'all can, like I say, our brothers and sisters that's familiar with the Bible, put them on and let them know what these symbolic stories, principle based stories are about. Let's see here.
Hey, Mop, I got a question before you transition. I'm at the gym. Sorry for the background noise, but so doesn't that mean that the powers that be may have an ancient like hand in like you understand like how they of Pocahontas and John Smith? So don't that mean that by you know how they did that sneaky stuff that's still like in play to present day? You know what I'm saying? Like if we go and claim like okay it's ours, boom 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 boom, but there's a marriage in place there. So how will we maneuver around that? If you understand what I'm trying to ask.
Um, I guess you have to know who you're dealing with. Because remember, Matatoka or Pocahontas was naive. She was so young, she was pretty much played. So you gotta watch out for the vampires. Um, you know, hopefully our intuition and discernment is on point. We'll be dealing with people.
I had one question as well. In regards, I think it definitely stems from this, but what I feel we have talked about this as well, but just a refresher. Like, what makes community? What are they? I would say the foundations that make a community.
Oh, participation of the people. For one, people on the same page that have one common goal, and everybody plays a part in that. Uh,
Okay.
what makes a nation state is a community of people that share the same culture.
Okay. Yeah.
You understand? That's a community too, but now it's a nation state and it has a constitution or bylaws or um, something of that nature that everybody adheres to.
Okay, that's a nation state, and just or there's a difference between just a community, like-minded people, um, all agreeing on in one accord, but a nation state would be, um, you said bloodline,
Yeah, the nation state will be everybody's
a
that has the
community
same
of
nationality and culture.
same nationality and culture. Okay, okay, thank you.
This is chapter 13, circle 7. Life and works of Jesus or Yahshua in Egypt among the Gentiles. So Jesus and Elihu and Solomon in Egypt tells a story of his journeys. Elihu and Salome praise Allah. Jesus goes to the temple in Heliopolis and is received as a pupil. And Jesus came to Egypt land and all was well. He tarried not upon the coast. He went at once to Zion, home of Elihu and Salome, who 25 years before had taught his mother in their sacred school. And there was joy when met these three. When last the son of Mary saw these sacred groves, he was a baby. And now a man grown, strong by buffeting of every kind, a teacher who had stirred the multitude of many. Jesus told the aged teachers all about his life, about his journeying in foreign lands, about the meetings with the masters, and about his kind reception by the multitude. Elihu and Salome heard his story with delight. They lifted up their eyes to heaven and said, Our Father God, Allah, let now thy servant go in peace, for we have seen the glory of Allah, and we have talked with him, the messenger of love, and of the covenant of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Through him shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Through him, Emmanuel. And we look up Emmanuel in the metaphysical Bible, that's this deep, deific man. Everybody can be Emmanuel. Everybody has the ability to be Emmanuel, their higher self. And Jesus stayed in Zoan many days, and then went forth into the city of the sun, that men call Heliopolis, and sought admission to the temple of the sacred brotherhood. Mm. The council of the brotherhood convened, and Jesus stood before the hierophant, or the high priest, or the magician. He answered all the questions that were asked with clearness and with power. The hierophant, or the high priest, or the magician, exclaimed, Rabboni of the rabbinate, why come you here? Your wisdom is the wisdom of the gods. Why seek for wisdom in the halls of men? And Jesus said, so Yahshua was a high priest. So I'm throwing that out there. In every way of earth life, I would walk. In every hall of learning, I would sit. The heights that many men had gained, these I would gain. What any man has suffered, I would meet, that I may know the griefs, the disappointments, and the sore temptations of my brother man, that I may know just how to succor those in need. I pray you, brothers, let me go into your dismal crypts, and I will pass the hardest of your tests. The master said, Take then the vow of secret brotherhood. And Jesus took the vow of the secret brotherhood. Again, the master spoke. He said, The greatest heights are gained by those who reach the greatest depths, and you shall reach the greatest depths. The guide then led the way, and in the fountain Jesus bathed. And when he had been clothed in proper garb, he stood again before the high priest. All right, so that's chapter 13, Life and Works of Yahshua in Egypt amongst the Gentiles. So once again, just like we read previously, um, you see in this Yahshua, for one, he's a high priest, he's a mastermind. The way he's looking at things is What I can do, all men can do. Um, he's a messenger of love because that's what binds all things, love and peace. That's a recipe to maintain love and peace in the community. It's a scientific approach to obtain that. Um, any thoughts on this chapter or in general or anything?
Oh, I have a question as well. What would be the secret brotherhood that he that he joined or spoke into? Would that be something other than higher than what he is already, or who do they represent?
So that would be a council or a lot or a community of high priests. Now, who are high priests? What is a high priest?
Right.
Mastermind, people that have mastered their self or almost mastered their self, like en route, like they up there. Um, they have divine wisdom, divine understanding, and you created a think tank, essentially, a council of such. And that
Okay.
is with this when you ever hear the sacred brotherhood in these contexts, that's what you're dealing with. So in today's sense, that would be the temple. Like
Okay.
what we're doing right here. Everybody's striving to get to that point, right? And it's a collective of us, right? So that this is a sacred brotherhood, which is not just saying it's men. It could be a sisterhood, brotherhood, all in one. It doesn't have to just be just a club of men or whatever. But
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that puts it in perspective for sure.
Anybody got any thoughts? And same thing with the mystery school, secret brotherhood, mystery school, all synonyms. It's a think tank of people in their higher self, plotting and planning how to make their conditions better, and how to make and to help people that are not on that level yet to get to that level. We playing the brother's keeper. Once
Teachers,
you
right?
want, yeah, teachers, the nobles, right? Because the people that's involved in the sacred brotherhood or the mystery school are quote unquote on the mountaintop. They can see from a better perspective than are people that are asleep in carnal behavior and haven't woke up yet. They still in the grave. And then in Masonic circles, that's that degree they get for a Haram Abiff. It's a shallow grave that our people are in for lack of knowledge and gratifying their lower self. No culture, no unity, no economic business structure. That they're afraid to work with each other. Jealousy, hate. When a people at large are in that behavior, uh, they're dead. So the jobs of our people that are not dead is to be in the community and one body at a time too. Like I say, we ain't finna save the world. That's unrealistic. But we can keep putting the info out, keep demonstrating, and get one body at a time until we have a nice handful of people that are willing to centralize finances for business purposes, economics, um, school of learning. You can come learn about XYZ. Um, we're creating an atmosphere like a counselor. The men and women involved in the situation should be able to vent to the brothers and sisters involved and get comfort and assistance and direction, all of the above. You know, uh, jurisprudence, law, how to trust law, uh, farming, astrology, anything you could think of. And as we get bigger, everybody got different skill sets too. That's the beauty of it. If everybody in their higher self, and you got 100 members, somebody bound to have some skills now. You got electrician, barbers, and you a bar, yeah, you a barber. Yeah, right. So, for example,
Right.
now we take all these skill sets and just come together and build stuff. Um, And then ideally, that force field is supposed to be recognized by people on the outside looking in and draws like a interest. And we have this magnetic type of thing going on now. And it just happened, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Wow.
But yeah, any other thoughts on that? I actually gotta hey the restroom, Mike. I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be right back. All right. So any any last thoughts before we close out here in prayer and adjourn the meeting?
No, all was well, bro. Great presentation. So,
Yeah, same here. I second that. That was a beautiful presentation, Sheik. Appreciate the knowledge.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem, man. So once again, 1 o'clock, I'll transfer to Instagram and pop off episode 1 of More Knowledge. Who are the Aryans? And everybody tap in. Hopefully we can get like 4 more fezzed up, turbaned up, flag in the background, and commence with the demonstration. Like I say, I'm gonna start off, play a couple songs, and then during that time, does everybody just share the beam out, blast it out, any and everybody. And this is gonna be a weekly thing. uh, Next week will be episode 2, etc. So I'm gonna close out in prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah, my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. So let me stop the recording.